Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that shook Boston to its core back in the 1960s. We're talking about the Boston Strangler, a name that still sends chills down the spine. This mysterious case involved the deaths of 13 women and left the city terrified. So, who was behind these heinous crimes? The identity of the Boston Strangler has been debated for decades, but one name keeps coming up: Albert DeSalvo. Let's get into it. It all began in 1962. Boston was a city on edge as news spread of a string of murders targeting women. These weren't just random attacks. They seemed calculated, almost methodical. The victims were mostly older women living alone, which made the crimes even more frightening.
Confessing to the bizarre and brutal murders of 13 women.
The first victim was Anna Sleezers, a 55-year-old woman found dead in her apartment. Her body was discovered by her son, and she had been strangled with the belt of her bathrobe. The police initially thought it might have been a burglary gone wrong, but as more women were found dead, it became clear that Boston had a serial killer on its hands. Enter Albert DeSalvo. He wasn't your typical suspect. DeSalvo was a handyman with a criminal past, but nothing that hinted at murder. He was arrested in 1964 for a series of sexual assaults unrelated to the Boston Strangler cases.
No matter what he did, he wasn't violent about it or hollering or screaming. He was very calm.
However, while in custody, DeSalvo confessed to being the strangler. He provided chilling details about the murders, things that only the killer would know.
The story, I believe, appeared on page 14. It was just a few paragraphs. Woman slain in Back Bay.
But here's where things get murky. DeSalvo's confessions were inconsistent. Some details didn't match the crime scenes.
Everybody in Boston was painfully aware of the stranglings and beyond the city itself.
Big news. Down here as well. It was a big-time event.
Women would not let the postman or the milkman come to the door. They certainly wouldn't let him in.
And there was no physical evidence tying him to the murders. Plus, DeSalvo had a reputation for being a compulsive liar. So, was he really the Boston Strangler, or was he just seeking notoriety? Let's take a moment to remember the victims.
The animal rescue places were absolutely depleted of dogs. Pet stops. They couldn't keep enough dogs. Everyone got guns, weapons, locks on houses, alarm systems.
The Boston Strangler is believed to have killed 13 women between 1962 and 1964. They ranged in age from 19 to 85 years old. These women were mothers, daughters, friends, and neighbors. The impact of their deaths was felt deeply throughout the community, and their stories deserve to be told. One of the youngest victims, Mary Sullivan, was just 19 when she was killed.
That DNA tests on Albert DeSalvo now confirm that he killed the woman believed to be the serial killer's last victim. DeSalvo admitted to killing Mary Sullivan and 10 other women in the Boston area between 1962 and 1964, but later recanted. Authorities say they got a DNA match with DeSalvo that excluded 99.9% of suspects.
Her case is particularly significant because, decades later, DNA evidence would link DeSalvo to her murder.
That suspect is Albert DeSalvo. Yesterday, a Suffolk Superior Court judge authorized the exhumation of DeSalvo's remains for confirmatory testing that we expect will prove DeSalvo's guilt once and for all. We didn't know it was going to be a dead man. Remember, it was an unknown sample. So, I mean, it could have pointed to somebody else, and then we might very well have had a very viable case against another individual. But, it's always important to give closure to families.
This discovery added a new layer to the case, but we'll get to that in a bit. DeSalvo never stood trial for the murders. Instead, he was sentenced to life in prison for the sexual assaults he committed. The public was left with more questions than answers.
Someone convinced him that if he confessed to being the Boston Strangler, he could make it a lot of money.
As far as the investigators are concerned, there is no mystery. Albert DeSalvo was the Boston Strangler.
I've been asked many times over the years if I really thought that Albert DeSalvo was the Strangler. And I was positive 30 years ago, and I'm positive now.
Was justice really served? Many believed the real Boston Strangler was still out there, while others were convinced DeSalvo was the culprit. This uncertainty led to numerous books, documentaries, and movies about the case. Everyone had their own theory, and the debate continued for years. Fast forward to 2013, nearly 50 years after the last murder. New DNA testing technology brought the case back into the spotlight.
The man who claims he strangled 13 women, young and old. He struck within the light of day, leaving not one clue astray. To reveal his secret will bring him fame, but burden his family with unwanted shame. Today he sits in a prison cell, deep inside. Only a secret he can tell. People everywhere are still in doubt. Is the Strangler in prison or roaming about?
Investigators exhumed DeSalvo's body and compared his DNA to evidence from the scene of Mary Sullivan's murder. The results were clear. DeSalvo's DNA was a match. This was a huge development. For many, it confirmed what they had suspected all along, that Albert DeSalvo was indeed the Boston Strangler. However, even with this evidence, some people still doubted his involvement in all 13 murders. Could there have been more than one killer? The Boston Strangler case left a lasting impact on the city and the world. It changed the way people thought about safety, especially for women living alone. It also highlighted the importance of forensic science in solving crimes. Despite the DNA evidence linking DeSalvo to one of the murders, the full truth about the Boston Strangler may never be known. What we do know is that the fear and tragedy of those years are still remembered by many. So, what do you think? Was Albert DeSalvo the Boston Strangler, or is there more to the story? It's a case that continues to fascinate and terrify people to this day. Thanks for hanging out with me and exploring this chilling case. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more intriguing stories coming your way. And hey, if you have any thoughts or theories about the Boston Strangler, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Until next time, stay safe and take care. Bye.